Hello, Scruffy Politics here with Steve and Stimpy. So, we lost a good man the other day in Jimmy Carter, former president. He was president before I was born, so I don't really know a lot about his presidency. I've heard it wasn't that successful. Very nice guy, very good guy. That's probably why he did not have a lot of success in politics, just because he's a good guy. And when you look at politics now, you see that there's a lot of people in it for themselves who are greedy, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. There's people on both sides. He graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. He helped Bill Clinton in 1994 with the North American Korean Peace Mission. In 2007, he joined Nelson Mandela in Johannesburg, South America, to help global leaders get together with human rights. It was called the Elder Group. So even after his presidency, he did still help out in politics in good ways that did not really benefit him, but he just did it to be a good guy. So he is, yeah, he's a man who a lot of people, no matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or an independent like myself, you respect the guy. He was in it for the right reason. Just kind of like how I respected John McCain. So yeah, so when you think of, so I'm not sure if you want to chime in, Brett. I'm
Yeah,
talking
I
too
I
much.
agree. I mean, I think Jimmy Carter was a great man. I think his heart was in the right place. He was a very intelligent person. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know that he was actually a nuclear expert. I think he
Yeah,
was like an engineer on a nuclear sub at one
smart
point
guy.
in his career. So, very intelligent, very nice guy. Came from a great family. Had a very long, loving marriage. Um, but again, kind of where we have talked previously about Trump's negative comments about McCain, I do have to say, and this isn't a knock on the guy himself, but it does illustrate a great life lesson, and that is that sometimes the people that we think would be the best for the position, for whatever reason, just don't seem to bring us the level of success that we want. So sometimes the people that you think would be perfect for the job don't get it done properly, and sometimes the person who you think is the worst for the job is the one that hits a grand slam home run out of the park. And I don't know why that is. I mean, there's many different factors, but I think Jimmy Carter actually, as far as like a tested IQ level, is the most intelligent president that we've ever had in the
Wait,
United States.
will Donald Trump accept that? Because Donald
No,
Trump
of course
always
he won't.
says he's the
Of course
smartest
he won't.
man on earth.
No, of course he won't. He would never accept that.
Which,
But
yeah,
I mean, Trump is one of those guys that has been successful at many different things that he's tried in life. Um, and I know some people dispute that because they're like he was bankrupt and all this other stuff. But um, so I guess the point that I'm trying to make is Jimmy Carter. Maybe he did the best that he could during a very difficult time. It's ironic because a lot of what we're dealing with now, as far as inflation, is what we dealt with during Jimmy Carter's time. It was due to a lot of government spending. We also ran into some problems with oil. But I think one of the things that really hurt Jimmy Carter was he was the first president. I don't know if you're aware of this, if you've ever seen it, but he actually gave a presidential address to the nation when things were really expensive and fuel heating costs were really high. And he actually suggested to Americans that we should put on a sweater and we should turn down the heat a little and try to conserve. And that just goes against the grain of how Americans view themselves. So you had a very dark contrast there with Carter leaving and Reagan coming in, because Reagan brought us back to that feeling like we are Americans and we can achieve anything. And we are not going to put on a sweater when times get tough and turn down the heat and lick our wounds. We're going to charge into the future and make it brighter.
yeah.
So
Well, the with with Jimmy Carter, I know Trump in recent years has brought up Jimmy Carter's name and has criticized the guy for stuff. He even took a dig at him last year at one point, knowing the man is sick and on hospice. Um, Even Jimmy Carter was better than Joe Biden, or Joe Biden is even worse than Jimmy Carter. Like, you should not, when you're a presidential candidate or a president, and I know Trump, it seems like he's already president. It drives me crazy with with the way it's his professionalism, and it's also Trump is. You should not have a guy like Trump as a leader, and I think this country will learn its lesson a couple years down the road when things are a bit worse. The inflation is actually getting better. Inflation all around the developed countries and the G7 countries were all high this past year or two. So it's not just America, and it's not just Joe Biden and those evil Democrats and so but my question is, will the Carter family, well, it's already Trump has already said he's going to Carter's funeral, and he wouldn't comment on if the family invited him. But just like John McCain, I liked it when McCain's family told Trump not to come. I don't think Carter's family should tell. I think Carter's family should make it known that they don't want Donald Trump to come to a funeral of a well-respected guy. So I just wish maybe
That just sounds like petty politics to me. I think that he should be invited. I think he should go, and I think he should be, nice and make good comments and be supportive. I mean, he didn't go to McCain's funeral, but I think didn't Melania go? Did she go to, or maybe
I
that
don't
was somebody
know.
else's that I'm thinking of. I think there was another one that Trump did not go to, and I think Melania went in his place. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, Jimmy Carter was president during a very rough time, and a lot of people do make the comparison between him and Biden, and I know Trump does that, but I mean, Trump is very outspoken. I mean, he's a New Yorker. He's been like that his whole life. He's always been brash and braggadocious and says a lot of different stuff. I mean, I think his bark is always worse than his bite. So I think, now that Carter's passed, I mean, if people ask him comments, I think he'll be polite and I think he'll be fair. I mean, if he were to say anything negative against Trump, against Carter, I wouldn't support that. I don't think a lot of other people would support it. But
Well,
I mean, the problem is there's so many times that he says stuff that people immediately take it out of context. That it's
I don't know
just,
how many people in life can get away with what Donald Trump can get away with. Like,
well, I don't think he gets away with it because he gets hammered by the media every time he says something.
oh,
So,
don't forget. I don't think Jimmy Carter or even George Bush or George Bush Senior, Bill Clinton, Obama, Biden, they would never sue a small town Iowa paper for a polling error or something that happened. And this just shows to show how petty Donald Trump is as a soon-to-be president, and it's it's
well,
it's
you make a
astounding.
good point. None of those people would. But I think people need to understand why Trump is bringing that lawsuit. He's not purposely going after that woman for a malicious nature. The reason he's going after her is because he's trying to prove a point. And the point is, in the lead up to the election, all these people were misleading the American people. Some of them highly paid professionals on TV were actively misleading the American public that Kamala really had a chance and that she was really going to beat Donald Trump. I mean, there was people who do this for a living, and they said that she was going to get 400 electoral college votes. So what do you do with
In
those people
in
that were so
that
blatantly
defense,
wrong?
in in that defense, I thought it was going to be a close race, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought Trump would win by a smidge, but he would find a way. And
Mm-hmm.
I do find it ironic, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, how all those swing states went Trump's way, ironically. And I really don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to, say there's cheating going on because I don't have any proof. However, I I don't know.
Well, this is what I would say. Okay, I mean, I follow this stuff very closely, and I'm not trying to say I'm the biggest expert in the world, but it really boils down to two things. And all these people who are in media and on TV and in politics are professionals. They know this as well. It boiled down to two things. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I read about an article where James Carville now is coming out saying he was wrong, right? No, James Carville wasn't wrong. He knew what he was doing the whole time. He was doing the same thing as this lady in Iowa. They all engage in this wishful thinking to kind of make the public feel like, hey, you really don't have to go out and vote for Trump. I mean, come on, Kamala's already got this in the bag. She was hanging out with Beyonce, for God's sakes. Like, of course she's going to win. The Republicans don't have a chance. Everybody knows.
Not a good idea right now.
Yeah, yeah.
With the P. Diddy scandal. Okay?
Right.
Like, I wouldn't be hanging out with her or J-Lo or anyone who has any affiliation with P. Diddy.
But these are the two things that it never veered from. And all these professionals know this. But they get paid to tell you a narrative. They get paid to tell you that Kamala's going to win, right? This is what it boils down to. The right track, wrong track poll. It always, since like the last 3 years, had been saying that 90% of Americans were saying that America is on the wrong track. Now, when you have a wrong track poll that high, that's a change election. That means Americans are telling you we don't like the direction we're going. We're going to vote for change. And the only change on that ballot was Donald Trump. The other thing was... I'm drawing a blank real quick. What was the other one?
While you think of that, I'll say something though.
Yes.
I did not like the track the Biden-Harris administration was on. I think Biden is the guy. I think he's a great guy. He did not have a successful run as president. He did have a border bill that Trump told Republicans then not to vote on, that there were Republicans that were part of putting the bill together, then went back on it because they were afraid of Trump. However, but I don't, and even though I'm not a fan of Kamala Harris, I think there should have been someone else who was running. I don't think America was ready for her. I think some of it had to do with her being a black woman. There still are racists in America, especially if you go down south to Alabama, Mississippi. I'm not saying everyone there is, but there is a lot of racist overtones there. So, and I don't think right now would have been the best time for her to be president. But
I remembered what I was going to say. So getting back to...
and I'll be done in a sec. Just because Biden was not successful does not mean we go for a guy who's a felon. He's been found, and he's had multiple women accuse him of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, the R word. It doesn't mean you go from a little bit of bad to extreme. It's just we did not have good people running as candidates. It was kind of a holy crap, what the hell is going on for the next 4 years?
I mean, basically it boiled down to the right track, wrong track poll. Most Americans said we were on the wrong track, over 90%, which meant that they wanted a change, and it was the economy. Those were the two things. Those were the two things that were always going to determine this election. People had the best opportunity ever to judge 4 years under Donald Trump, which they viewed as no new wars. They viewed it as cheap gas, cheap food. For whatever reason, people booted him during COVID. They didn't like his personality or his response to COVID, and they brought in Joe Biden. And with Joe Biden, we saw an increase in prices. We saw the border completely disintegrate, and people watched it every night for 4 years. Now, just imagine what impact that had. For every night that people watched the news, for 4 years, they watched total pandemonium at the border, probably asking themselves, what is going on here? And the president was silent. He never spoke about it. So I think that's it. It was the economy and it was the border.
Well, it's coming on to 15 minutes. However, I do want to say one more thing to credit Jimmy Carter about what a great man he was. Habitat for Humanity, everyone he's helped out, and any disaster there's been. He taught Sunday school, before
I
he
agree.
couldn't. So just a great
totally
man.
agree.
And I don't think in the near future or even after Trump we'll have anyone to be that professional again. The last president, I think I thought Biden was professional, but Obama and Bush, they had thick skin. They were professional. They knew they'd be attacked in the media, and George Bush was attacked a lot, and that man could handle it. So,
Yep.
so the level of professionalism that we see at the White House now, I think, is down the tubes, and I don't think a lot of people, myself included, don't take the White House and many politicians as serious as people once did.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that's a problem with our culture in general, that you're getting more people that are just not as professional and not as serious and not as good as we used to have.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
all right,
thank
well,
you.
very good.
This went longer than it was supposed to, so we'll
that's all right.
we'll end this. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, signing off. See ya.
Signing off.